Emma's hands rested tightly on the cold metal rims of her wheelchair. The California sun was shining bright, but in her heart, shadows lingered. Once, she had been full of energy, a rising star in corporate law, running between meetings, flights, and late-night dinners with friends. But after the accident 6 months ago, everything had changed. Now she lived inside a glass house of silence. The laughter, the speed, the feeling of walking into a room with confidence, all of it had been stolen by one brutal night on the freeway. Her car had been crushed in a multi-vehicle collision. The doctors said she was lucky to be alive, but luck was a strange word when you couldn't feel your legs anymore. Her fiancé left her just 2 weeks after the accident. His excuse was, he couldn't handle the pressure. Truthfully, he couldn't handle her anymore. Not the medical bills, not the hospital smell, not the wheelchair. That betrayal cut deeper than any wound. So when Emma wheeled herself out of the rehab center and into her parents' garage, she carried not just her body's weight but the weight of being abandoned. And then came David. He wasn't part of her old life. Not a lawyer, not a wealthy businessman, not someone her parents would ever have imagined for her. He was a mechanic. Young, broad-shouldered, with grease-stained hands but eyes so full of light that Emma often felt blinded when he looked at her. He had been hired to tune her father's Porsche, the car that hadn't been driven in years, locked inside the garage like a museum piece. Emma never cared about cars, but the sound of David's laughter while fixing the engine was the first real music she had heard in months. One evening, while Emma was quietly observing him, her wheelchair accidentally rolled forward. She panicked as it tilted slightly, but David caught it instantly, kneeling in front of her. "Careful there," he said softly, his voice neither pitying nor mocking. Just present. For a moment, Emma felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: safety. The garage moment. The day captured in the photograph was the day everything shifted. David had finished working on the car, but instead of simply handing over the keys, he rolled a small box toward Emma. She frowned, unsure of what he was doing. "I added something," he said, kneeling in front of her wheelchair, holding her hands firmly as if grounding her soul. "Not to the car, but to your life." Emma's heart raced. She was used to men looking at her with pity or avoidance. But this man, a stranger, really, was looking at her with conviction. Inside the box wasn't jewelry, nor money. It was a small custom-designed gadget, a lightweight, detachable driving aid system. David had secretly been working on it for weeks. With it, Emma could drive the Porsche, or any car, without needing her legs. Tears stung her eyes. For the first time since the accident, she felt a flicker of freedom again. Wheels no longer just meant her chair. Wheels could mean the open road. But before she could say anything, footsteps echoed from the shadows of the garage. Her father, Mr. Johnson, stepped out. His suit was perfect, his silver hair combed neatly back. His eyes, however, were sharp with judgment. "What is this?" he asked, his voice heavy with disapproval. Emma froze. Her father had been her rock during childhood but had grown into a controlling figure in her adult life. Since the accident, he had treated her as fragile, incapable, almost invisible. David didn't let go of her hands. "Sir, I was just..." Mr. Johnson cut him off. "You don't belong here. You're just a mechanic. Do you think you can waltz into my garage, into my daughter's life, and play hero?" Emma's lips parted, but no words came. She hated how small she felt in front of her father, even now. But David squeezed her hands gently and looked directly at her, not at Mr. Johnson. "Emma, this isn't about your father. This is about you. Do you want to stay trapped, or do you want to feel free again?" The silence was electric. Emma's heart pounded. Flashbacks of pain. In that tense moment, Emma's mind flashed back to the accident, the screeching tires, the crunch of metal, the screams. Then to the hospital, where the doctor had said in clinical words, "You may never walk again." Then to the moment her fiancé whispered, "I can't do this," before walking out the door. She had been living in chains ever since. Chains of fear, doubt, and other people's judgments. And now here was David, a stranger who had added a simple device to a car, but in truth, what he had added was possibility. Emma's lips trembled. She finally spoke, her voice breaking but firm. I want to feel free again." Mr. Johnson's jaw tightened. His daughter had never defied him before. David smiled faintly, still kneeling. Then let's do this together. Dash dash dash. A storm is coming. That night wasn't the end of the story. It was only the beginning. Because freedom comes with a price. And the price Emma would have to pay was higher than she could have imagined. As her father's eyes burned with unspoken warnings, Emma realized something. The battle ahead wasn't just about learning to live in a wheelchair. It was about breaking free from the cage her own family had built around her. And David was willing to fight beside her. The garage lights buzzed softly. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. Emma gripped David's hands tighter, a spark of courage igniting inside her chest. For the first time in months, she felt alive. But she had no idea that what David had added would not only change her life, it would also uncover secrets about her family that could destroy everything. Thunder echoed faintly in the Los Angeles sky as Emma stared at her father, Mr. Johnson. His expression was stone, his eyes sharp, like a judge about to deliver a sentence. David still knelt in front of her, his hands warm, steadying her trembling fingers. The small driving device he had created lay in the box on her lap, a silent symbol of hope. "This is madness, Mr. Johnson finally said. "Emma, you're not ready. You'll only hurt yourself again." Emma swallowed hard. Her father's words cut deep, but this time, she felt the faint glow of defiance. "Dad, I want to try." Mr. Johnson's lips pressed into a thin line. For a man who controlled boardrooms worth billions, losing control of his daughter was intolerable. He turned his back without another word and disappeared into the house. The silence left behind was heavier than thunder. Dash dash dash. A new beginning. David exhaled slowly. "He'll come around," he said softly. But Emma wasn't so sure. Her father's disappointment was a storm that never passed quickly. Still, something inside her had shifted. For months, she had been trapped in fear. Tonight, with David beside her, she felt the door to freedom creak open. The next morning, David returned to teach her how to use the adaptive device. The Porsche gleamed under the California sun, its black paint catching streaks of gold. Emma's heart raced as David wheeled her closer. "You ready?" he asked, smiling gently. Emma hesitated. Her hands shook as she touched the steering wheel. She hadn't been behind one since the accident. Memories of twisted metal and flashing ambulance lights rushed back. David noticed her silence. "Emma, this isn't about proving anything to your dad, or anyone else. This is about you. 1 mile at a time." His voice calmed her storm. She nodded. Slowly, with his help, she slid from the wheelchair into the driver's seat. Her fingers traced the adaptive lever system. For the first time in half a year, she felt like she wasn't just a passenger in life, she was the driver again. David guided her hand. "Push forward to brake, pull back to accelerate. You control it all." Emma closed her eyes, inhaled, and then turned the key. The engine roared to life. Her body shivered, not from fear, but from the raw surge of freedom rushing through her veins. She pressed the lever gently. The car rolled forward, smooth and steady. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I'm driving," she whispered. "I'm really driving." David's grin widened. "Yes, you are." Dash dash dash. The father's shadow. For the next few weeks, David trained Emma every evening. They drove around quiet suburban roads, then along the coast where waves crashed against cliffs. Slowly, her confidence grew. But Mr. Johnson never approved. He watched from the window, his jaw tight, his phone constantly in his hand. One night, Emma overheard him on a call. His voice was sharp, urgent. "She's getting too close to him. I won't let that boy interfere. Do whatever it takes." Emma froze outside his office door. Who was he talking to? Why did he sound afraid? The next morning, David didn't show up. Emma called him, but his phone went straight to voicemail. Panic surged. Dash dash dash. Secrets in the dark. Hours later, David appeared, bruised. His lip was cut, his shirt torn. Emma gasped. "David, what happened?" He shook his head, glancing toward the house nervously. "Nothing. Just, wrong place, wrong time." But Emma wasn't a lawyer for nothing. She could smell a lie. She grabbed his hand, forcing his eyes to meet hers. "Tell me the truth." David hesitated, then sighed. "2 men jumped me near the garage. Said I should stay away from you. Said your father gives the orders." Emma's world tilted. "My father. No, he wouldn't." But deep down, she knew he would. Mr. Johnson wasn't just controlling, he was ruthless. Emma's hands trembled on her wheelchair rims. Rage bubbled inside her, rage at her father for treating her like a business deal instead of a daughter, rage at fate for chaining her to wheels, rage at everyone who thought she couldn't fight back. She looked at David, her voice firm. Then we fight. The forbidden file. That night, Emma wheeled herself into her father's study while he was away at a board meeting. Her hands shook as she opened his desk drawers. And there it was, a hidden folder marked with her name. Inside were documents, insurance policies, medical reports, and letters from lawyers. But one paper made her blood run cold. It was a contract, a plan to transfer her entire inheritance into a trust, one controlled solely by Mr. Johnson. The reason? Due to incapacitation. Tears blurred her vision. He wasn't protecting her, he was stripping her of independence. To him, she wasn't Emma anymore, just an asset to be controlled. Her father hadn't just tried to scare David away. He was trying to ensure she never lived free again. Fire in her heart. When David returned that evening, Emma showed him the file. His jaw clenched. Emma, this isn't just about control. He's cutting you off, making sure you can't stand on your own, figuratively and literally. Emma's eyes burned with determination. Then I'll prove him wrong. I'll prove to him, and to myself, that I can live my life, with or without his permission. David smiled faintly, touching her shoulder. That's the Emma I believe in. For the first time in months, her reflection in the mirror didn't look like a victim. It looked like a fighter.